Calaroga Shark Media.
Hey there, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. You know, last week in the real world, there was a lot of real news. There were the airplane delays. I suffered from that. There was the government shutdown, which I've misspelled in my notes using an I. Think about it. That came to an end. And of course, the Epstein files. So Newsweek, they cover the news. They were all over it. They had the big story, which was, of course, Joe Rogan word pronunciation grates on fans. Yeah, everybody was talking about this last week. It seems Joe Rogan on his podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience, was discussing ethanol. The guest was Jeff Dye. They started talking about alternative fuels. The subject turned to ethanol, which Joe Rogan pronounced ethanol. Whoa, Joe, relax with that pronunciation, bro. Newsweek tells us the segment quickly drew attention, spawning a series of viewer comments expressing amusement, confusion, and sometimes frustration at his word choice. Oh yeah, Newsweek wrote an entire article about this because Joe Rogan mispronounced ethanol as ethanol, which, maybe it's me, is not crazy. Here are some of the comments that Newsweek published. 1. Every time Rogan says ethanol instead of ethanol, I recoil and crunch. WTF, bruh. Another really important comment that made Newsweek said, the way Joe says ethanol is bothering me so much for some reason, LOL. Another very important comment, Joe saying ethanol has me messed up. Another person even included a timestamp at 2 hours, 9 minutes, 27 seconds. Jets wrote, ethanol is like bethanol without the B, not ethanol. Amy Schumer likes when we talk about her, so we will. She made a change to her social media presence last week. People are claiming conspiracy on Instagram. Amy Schumer had a new post. She captioned it, deleted my old pics for no reason. Amy Schumer deleted every previous photo and added the one new post showing off her new weight loss look. Amy wrote, I actually left my house tonight. Who's proud? I'm feeling good and happy. Deleted my old pics for no reason. Hours before that announcement, she posted a picture of her very first Instagram post to her Insta stories, captioning that, my first ever Insta post. I'm going to erase them all because why not? Some people are wondering, perhaps there are some things in her past that she doesn't want us to stumble across scrolling through her Instagram or not. Who knows? Others are like, no, Amy lost some weight and feels like she's looking real good and just wants to live in the now. I don't know. The Wall Street Journal spoke with Louis C.K. He's out hawking his new novel. The Journal said in the acknowledgments, you thank Theo Von and Chris Rock. How did they help? C.K. said, I gave it to a bunch of my friends. Those are like the two that read it. I think Theo is a modern-day Mark Twain. Tap the brakes on that. I mean, should I do half an hour on that comment? C.K. said of Theo Von, he's an incredible storyteller, and meeting him before I wrote this is not a coincidence. The Journal was curious. What were Chris Rock's notes? C.K. told the Journal, Chris said, you wrote an effing novel? Do we have to write novels now? The version he read was longer and had more weird stuff about place and time. I was timid about that, but he said, you need some weird Louis crap in there. That was his thing, but he loved it. C.K. also in the acknowledgments mentions Fiverr, you know, the freelance service. You pay somebody $5 to design a website logo, you know, that place. The Journal was curious. Did you pay strangers to read the book? C.K. said, yeah, they didn't know who I was. I just made a username. The first draft I sent out, I got a lot of, this is garbage. One woman said, this is just a wall of words. She was really tough. I had to breathe. Like, wow, that's not easy to read, but really good. Shane Gillis told a story about meeting NFL star Micah Parsons. Shane was on Monday Night Football last week. Now, I didn't see Monday Night Football last week for several reasons. One, the YouTube TV versus Disney dispute. Even if I wanted to watch Monday Night Football, I couldn't because on that particular night, YouTube TV was not showing ABC nor ESPN. So I hopped on my boat and went out to international waters, as, you know, sometimes you have to do. And I still couldn't come up with it. And at that point, I was like, I already wrapped up the football pool and I went on with my life and I watched YouTube. So that's one reason I didn't watch the game. The other reason I didn't watch the game is I, of course, don't support fascism. Remember, the fascists, they kicked off Jimmy Kimmel's show. Jimmy was off the air for like 6 hours one time, and we all lost our minds and canceled Disney+. That's right. So I was even talking to one of the trivia guys about this. He's with me. We don't do that. He's like me. He goes all the way upstairs, goes to the DVD closet, finds the Scrubs DVD, walks all the way back down 2 flights of stairs, puts the DVD in the PlayStation 5, and watches Scrubs on DVD. You think the trivia guy is just going to hit the Hulu button on his Roku? No, he doesn't support fascism. By the way, my team won trivia, but we'll talk about that on Wednesday. Shane Gillis was on Monday Night Football last week. What's the game tonight? Raiders, Cowboys. That's skippable. Anyway, Shane is there on the Manning cast. Peyton Manning Brings up the time Shane Gillis met Micah Parsons during a party at Saquon Barkley's house, name dropper. Peyton Manning said, Shane, I heard a story that you met Micah Parsons at a Super Bowl party. Boy, Peyton, you're really, really prepped for the show there, huh? In case you're not totally hip to show business, a producer probably talked to either Shane or someone in his camp and said, hey, what can you talk about? And Shane or someone in his camp went, oh, Shane's got a Micah Parsons story. And then they wrote that on the piece of paper. And then Peyton's like, Shane, I heard a story that you met Micah Parsons at a Super Bowl party. Not for nothing. I understand Peyton Manning is an NFL quarterback who's been doing the Manning cast for 4 years now, 5 years, something like that. I understand that he's not Johnny Carson, but you have been doing this for a minute. You got to be better than, Shane, I heard a story that's just like, you're not even trying. I digress again. Shane, I heard a story that you met Micah Parsons at a Super Bowl party. Did y'all hit it off? Are y'all buddies? What's the deal? Eagles fan Shane Gillis did attend Barkley's Super Bowl party when Barkley was with the Giants. Micah Parsons was at the party, and since Shane Gillis and Parsons are both from the same area of Philly, Shane approached him. Shane explained, look, he did nothing wrong. It was a completely normal reaction from him. We were at a Super Bowl party. I'm in Eagles gear, so I look like a fan. Everyone else that's there is like, cool, it's at Saquon's house. He was still with the Giants. I'm there wearing all Eagles gear. I'm walking around. I'm one of the 3 white guys in the room, and I walk up to Micah Parsons, and I was like, Micah, I went to Trinity High School in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. I hear you're from Harrisburg. He was like, who's this guy? Also, I'm like 15 years older than him, so he was like, dude, you should leave. And I did leave immediately as soon as he said, oh, what's up? I was like, it's time to go. Josh Johnson got a very, very nice, thorough article in Billboard. Josh was on Zoom for the interview and said, I feel very bad about how this call is lit. I did my best, but I'm in a hotel room in Jacksonville, and there are only so many lights to work with. There's some shadow being cast. It's not wholly flattering, so you've caught me. Billboard was impressed by Josh Johnson's statistics. His first night anchoring The Daily Show in July drew 590,000 total viewers in the 18 to 49s, which I've graduated from. I'm an 18 to 49 alumni. There were 226,000 18 to 49s. More than Jon Stewart's top-rated episodes. Now that is all kinds of interesting. Then Stewart took the record back when Stewart hosted on a Thursday after Jimmy Kimmel's suspension. That night, Jon Stewart got 443,000 viewers in the 18 to 49s. So I'm looking at Josh Johnson's skyrocketing career. I kind of want to stop off at, could he be the permanent host of The Daily Show? But I don't even think they could hold on to him. I think he's going to just skip right over that step. Josh said, I've been having a lot of fun. Everybody's been super supportive. It's been really special. I have a whole lot to learn, so I'm excited at every opportunity I get. Everyone with a role's been in it long enough to feel really comfortable with it and inspired by Jon Stewart. For the most part, whenever I'm hosting, I look at it as an opportunity to learn more about what everyone else is doing. When I started as a writer, I was so focused on writing and style and voice and the writer's wing in general that sometimes I didn't understand how a piece I'd written affected props or costume, for example. See, that's smart. Now being on the correspondent/hosting side, I see what it takes to make something happen from that perspective. Understanding how everything comes together makes me feel like a better writer because now I'm speaking more of a shared language. The show's a great culture for that. Everybody can learn from everybody else, even if it's not their department. All right, when you're host, do you write your own material? He says it's a group effort. From Cron.com, they wanted us to know that William Montgomery, you may know William Montgomery from Kill Tony, bombed during a set at the Still Standing Comedy Festival at the Far Out Lounge in Austin. Cron.com reports William Montgomery was supposed to do a half-hour set, but he lasted 15 minutes. Quotes after his excruciating, unfunny jokes about celebrity deaths and doing drugs landed in the same way a roach your cat kills does in your lap. They tell us one of the jokes had a, quote, unbelievably racist punchline, which this is a racism-free podcast, so I'm not going to repeat it. The joke involved a plane crash from 2001. Cron.com asked, did Montgomery arrive in Austin via a time machine? There weren't any more recent celebrities whose graves he could dance on? Montgomery also had a joke about Paul Walker. You know Paul Walker from the movie series The Fast and the Furious. Paul Walker passed away in 2013. Check your calendars, everybody. Crowd didn't like it. Montgomery screamed at Austinites saying, that was BS. That was a good joke. Cron.com writes, I think this is an actual joke. I'll read you the full sentence. So Montgomery screamed after Austinites failed to find any humor at all in such well-crafted jokes like Paul Walker, more like Paul Crasher. Cron.com says, comedy really is dead, I suppose. Montgomery tagged that with, I heard the real reason Paul Walker died was because the director forgot to say cut. I'm sure Mr. Montgomery told these much better than I did, but they don't read as great jokes. Montgomery then said, what do we have, a bunch of wussy Paul Walker fans in the crowd tonight? Cron says, Montgomery then shrieks, nearly deliriously angry at the crowd of fans who mistakenly thought they had paid to see someone funny. That's funnier than the whole set. You go, Cron.com writer. Oh, there's more. They tell us, unsurprisingly, another video shows Montgomery's frustration at his chilly reception as his chilly reception descends into full-blown racism and misogyny. At one point, he points at a man in the crowd and asks if he's of Pacific Island descent. Then Montgomery flips out at a woman in the crowd who allegedly flipped him off, calling her slurs and saying she should be publicly executed. It's not clear what joke led up to this meltdown, but then the camera pans to a packed crowd at the Far Out Lounge that is, again, very understandably, completely stone-faced at his freakout. At one point in the video, you can hear an audience member yell, "Bro, throw a tomato." Someone on Reddit said, "I was there. It was way worse than it seemed in this video." Really? Worse than it seems? Everyone in the crowd was making remarks about how he just needed to get off the stage. The craziest part was an audience member was able to walk on stage and called his performance garbage. A Reddit user said, "William is really great in short bursts. He hasn't figured out how to do an hour." Yeah, so Kill Tony comes up all the time. I understand the people that hate Kill Tony. I get it. I can comedy snob with the best of them. You listen to the podcast, you hear me do it. Kill Tony is newbies and amateurs getting up and doing maybe a minute. Maybe if Tony lets you go long, you get 75 seconds. That's what it is. This is not an HBO comedy special in 1988. It's get up and see if you can last a minute before they play the bear or whatever it is they do. So that William Montgomery can't stretch from a minute to a half hour? Not shocking. Out today on the Blonde Medicine YouTube channel, it's Mike Kaplan's new comedy special. It's called Rini, R-I-N-I. We're told the special is a deeply personal project created by the duo, equal parts a comedy special and thesis on love. In the show, performed at Edinburgh Fringe, Kaplan offers advice to his past dumb self while discussing his evolving thoughts on traditional marriage, polyamory, quantum physics, psychedelics, music, God, and more. Mike Kaplan said, "I'm a better person because of her. I'm a better comedian because of her." Rob Schneider was on Fox and Friends. You know this is going to go well, right? Yeah, he was discussing the Turning Point USA event at UC Berkeley and Schneider's conversation with Robert De Niro about the President of the United States. Schneider defended free speech during said Turning Point USA event at UC Berkeley. Rob Schneider was speaking to students and recalled a tense but civil exchange with fellow actor Robert De Niro. Boy, that's an insult to Robert De Niro. I mean, I guess they're both actors in the same way that Joe Rogan and I are both podcasters. Even that, I think there's a bigger spread between Schneider and De Niro. Maybe that's like saying both Johnny Carson and I spoke into a microphone at some point. Maybe that's more apt. Anyway, Robert De Niro's fellow actor, Rob Schneider. Seriously, guys? Schneider's takeaway was it showed the power of responding with love instead of anger. Schneider calls for loving people who are your enemy. Apparently, there were some protesters outside the event. Schneider told Fox and Friends, these people, preventing people from talking and preventing people from getting in, these were the anti-fascists. Now, again, I'm a peaceful anti-fascist who watches Scrubs DVDs. Do not engage in brawls. That's not what us anti-fascist Scrubs watchers are about. We're just about Jimmy Kimmel should have a show. That's all. We come in peace. We watch Scrubs DVDs. Schneider said the Turning Point USA students from Berkeley wanting to have peaceful discourse, peaceful debate, conversations, talking about how much they love God, family, and country. These people were called the fascists. Schneider asked, who are the real fascists there? And I will ask them, did you watch Monday Night Football? Because I didn't. Schneider goes on to say, fellow actor Robert De Niro confronted Rob Schneider about Schneider's support of the President of the United States. Schneider tells the story. De Niro turns around and he's like, Schneider, how could you support that? I'll clean it up here, jerky face. Schneider said, I looked right at him and I said, I love you. I swear to God, he looked right at me and went, okay, it's the only way to handle this. We were never going to be out-canceled the cancel culture. They're better at it than us. It's got to be through love. When you come from a place of love and brotherhood, it doesn't advance to that next ugly place. Good advice from Rob Schneider. And that is your comedy news for today. See you tomorrow.